for your assistance, Senator Hanson. Senator Patterson.
Thank you, Chair. Just a few moments ago, the Minister drew a distinction between this returning cohort and previous returning cohorts by saying some of those previous people were ISIS fighters and these ones were not ISIS fighters. So can you confirm for me that there is no evidence or suspicion that these people were involved in any acts of terror or other terror offences while they were overseas?
Senator, that is an operational matter that would have to be referred to security, law enforcement agencies, but I can say not to our knowledge.
Right, well, so the Minister was able to. So there's no suspicion that either of the adults in this cohort committed any terrorism offence while they're overseas.
Senator, I'm very conscious that I don't know all of the information that might be available to security and intelligence and law enforcement agencies, nor whether or not any future investigation or prosecution might take place, and therefore I think it would be not appropriate for me to speculate about that. Those questions could go to them and they could make a judgment about whether or not
and they will, but you just said in your previous answer you don't believe so. So just to be clear, they did not commit any declared area offence by being in a declared area while they're overseas?
So, Senator, what I said was not to my knowledge.
Yes.
But those questions are best addressed to the security, law enforcement, intelligence agencies.
What about associating with the terrorist organisation? Are we seriously saying that ISIS brides were not associated with the terrorist organisation, which is a crime under the Criminal Code?
So, Senator, I've said that I don't wish to do anything that would prejudice any future investigation.
Sure, but the Minister just told us these people were not ISIS fighters. They're different from previous cohorts.
No, what I said, what I did was read out to you a question on notice that was answered relating to the 40 returnees from the conflict in Syria and Iraq between 2013 and 2017 under the coalition government, and the answer to that question in notice said that that 40 included some who have fought for ISIL, some have not fought but provided support to ISIL, and a few who had joined other Islamic extremist groups.
And then you went on to say, and this group were not ISIS fighters. So
I think
what information did Minister?
Feel free to have
I haven't finished my question. I haven't finished my question, Minister. What information do you have to satisfy yourself that neither of these adults who've returned have committed any terrorism offences and were not ISIS fighters?
Well, as Ms Foster has said, I think they are questions that should be directed to the security agencies who are in a better position to understand what should and should not be put in the public domain.
But you just told us moments ago these people were not ISIS fighters. How did you know that?
Well, no. Feel free to go back and have a look at the transcript. I'm pretty sure that's not what I said.
Well, I'm pretty sure it is what you said, and we'll get that transcript and I'll provide it to you. I'll quote it back to you directly. So are you now saying you don't know whether or not these people were ISIS fighters or not?
The point I was making was that what we know from this question on notice is that the 40 returnees, at least under the coalition government, those who came under between 2013 and 2017, included some who fought for ISIL, some who've not fought but provided support to ISIL, and a few who had joined other Islamic extremist groups.
And then you drew a distinction between that cohort and this cohort. So what was the information you were relying on to make that distinction?
I can't add anything to the answers I've already given you.
Because you don't know?
Because I've already answered your questions several times.
Was it just a speculative comment that you made?
Feel free to have a look at my earlier answers.
Were you making an assumption because of their gender that they weren't ISIS fighters? What was the reason?
Feel free to have a look at my earlier answers.
Well, Minister, it would be very helpful if you could just explain to me what the basis of your statement was. Have you been briefed on this matter?
The basis of my statement was the question on notice that was answered back in 2017, 2018, where under a coalition government we saw around 40 people who had fought for ISIL and joined other Islamic extremist groups who returned to Australia. That was the basis for my
Yes,
statement.
but you were also commenting on the particulars of this cohort and the difference with previous cohorts. So I'll ask again, have you been briefed on these matters?
Personally, I had a briefing from the Minister's office to prepare for estimates, but that's the extent of my knowledge.
And in that briefing, did they tell you whether or not these returnees had committed any terrorism offences while they're offshore?
The information I've given you today is based on the briefings that I received. And any further questions about the detail of these returnees should be put to security agencies.
Right, so I am none the wiser as to where you got your confidence that these returnees are different from the previous returnees.
Well, I'm sure the security agencies will be happy to provide you whatever information they can when they appear later today.
Okay. You also said that there are persons of interest in this cohort. What about them makes them persons of interest?
Well, again, I wouldn't mind seeing what I actually said. What I think I said was that our agencies are aware of who the persons of interest are in this cohort.
Okay, so tell me about that. On what basis are they persons of interest?
I'm not a minister who turns up and breaches national security rules.
Well, not deliberately, I'm sure, but you might have inadvertently.
Feel free to put those questions to the security agencies when they appear.
Okay, here's your direct quote. I'm going to help you here, Minister. You said, "These 2 women and 4 children, it is worth remembering that between 1 January 2013 and 16 October 2017, almost all of which was under a coalition government, we saw returnees from the conflict in Syria and Iraq number around 40, according to that question on notice. And in fact, they were not women and children, they were fighters. They were ISIL and ISIS fighters who returned. So I think some context is probably useful in this debate." So can you confirm where you became confident that these women are not in fact ISIL or ISIS fighters?
I don't think the quote that you just read back has me saying that. I think you're trying to. I think you're misrepresenting what I said.
You just said that they were. You referred to this cohort as 2 women and 2 children, and then you said this other cohort you're talking about were not women and children; they were fighters. So. Is it because of their gender that you've made an assumption that they haven't committed a terrorist offence?
No. You're misrepresenting what I said. What I said is that this group are women and children. I said that group that returned under the coalition, many more, I might add, like 7 times as many, at least, were fighters. That's what I said.
Yeah. So
you're trying to conflate what I've said, and I haven't made that point that you're
What is the
trying to-
relevance of the fact that they're women and children, if not to distinguish them from ISIL fighters? You think that you appear to think that's a meaningful distinction.
Again, you can try and conflate different sentences to make a point that you want to make. What my statement is factually correct. Feel free to read it back out.
Minister,
Feel free to
are
read
you
it back out.
aware whether or not any
And then
women...
everyone listening can judge whether you're conflating it and misrepresenting
Thanks, Minister.
me.
Are you aware...
You don't want to read it back out?
Minister, are you aware whether any women have fought for ISIS?
Oh, I think historically it's known that some women have fought for ISIS.
Okay, so explain to me then the distinction that you were drawing between these returnees and those ones.
Feel free to read my statement back out.
Okay, all right, we can do it again if you want. I think it's on the Hansard record, but let's do it. These 2 women and 4 children, it is worth remembering that between 1 January 2013 and 16 October 2017, almost all of which was under a coalition government, we saw returnees from the conflict in Syria and Iraq number around 40, according to that question on notice, and in fact, they were not women and children, they were fighters. They were ISIL and ISIS fighters who returned, so I think some context is probably useful in this debate. Why is their gender relevant? What's the distinction between an ISIS fighter, whether they're male or female?
I was just giving you a factual statement that the 6 people we are talking about here are women and children.
Yes.
I was giving you a factual statement that under the coalition government, between 2013 and 2017 alone, 40 people returned who were ISIL fighters or members of other terrorist organisations. They are factually correct statements. If you want to draw conclusions from that, that's up to you.
I think the conclusion's pretty clear, Minister, but let's move on to other areas.